Well, hey there YouTube, Travis here. I thought I'd show you guys this update. I've kind of upgraded in the 4Runner world, and this is my new to me 2000 Toyota 4Runner. I love my Toyota trucks, as you guys know, and I greatly miss my old 4Runner, my 89. And I would still be driving that today if not for the fact that both the state inspection, and it needed about $500 in brake work, and the clutch kind of came due at the same time, and because fifth gear had never worked, I knew I was in for some serious transmission work, and at that time I just couldn't come up to the money, and I really couldn't justify putting that kind of money into something where it had, you know, a certain amount of rust, and I wasn't guaranteed to get the life out of the frame and the body. But anyway, this kind of fell into my lap a couple months later. I was carless for a while, which was fine. I had a fleet of mopeds back in Pennsylvania, so no big deal. But this one kind of fell into my lap. I share the same mechanic with the former owner, and he said, well, one of my customers is getting ready to upgrade, and they had this 4Runner, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, then I saw this thing, and I saw the kind of transmission it had, and I had to jump on it. But enough of my rambling, let's take a closer look. So this is a third generation Toyota 4Runner. This generation ran from 1996 to 2002. It featured two different engines. One is the one I have is the 5VZ FE, which is the 6-cylinder, and it also had the 4-cylinder, the 3RZ FE. And I was really hoping this would be the 4-cylinder. I like 4-cylinders for their simplicity, but it ended up being the 6, which is okay because it's a very good engine, and it's a big improvement over the 3.0, which was in the earlier generation 4Runners, but I'll talk a little bit more about that once we get under the hood. So in addition to having a good transmission and a good engine, something else that I really liked about the vehicle, also the brand new tires on it were a good thing too. My mechanic jokes that the previous owner pulled a reverse Travis. He put a bunch of money into a vehicle and then sold it, which is opposite what I usually do, which is buying an old beater and having to put a ton of money into it. But it also had the frame replaced, which was big. For whatever reason, 90s Toyotas just had a frame rust problem, and the fact that this one had the frame replaced was a big positive for me. When we get around the back, I'll show you the trailer hitch, which was original to the vehicle, and you can see the amount of rust on that, and which isn't anything too terrible, but there is a fair bit of it. So let's climb inside this thing and take a look around. Okay, here we are inside the 4Runner, and yes, this was the very last year you could get a Toyota 4Runner with a manual transmission. I was so excited when I saw this. I've been very fortunate that I've been able to find a manual transmission in pretty much every vehicle I've owned, and I'll always continue to buy manual because it just makes driving so much more fun. And you know, if you drive it correctly, it can result in lower service costs over the life of the vehicle. My personal opinion, I could make a whole video about that, but maybe I will. Anyway, so taking a look at the cab here, again, we've got a manual transmission. We also have a selectable transfer case, which is nice. No push buttons or knobs on the dash. I kind of like that. It's the first car I've owned since the Camry that's had working air conditioning, which has been great driving around in the southern Delaware heat. It's been really good to me. Pretty much everything on it works. It's got some little things that need attention. For example, the retractable power radio mast there is stuck, so that'll get a replacement. There's a lot of documentation about that on the internet. It's not totally uncommon. And minor thing, the turn signal, if you don't click it to the right perfectly, it'll buzz on you, so I think it needs a new stock right here. But the one feature of this vehicle I wish it had, but it doesn't, and it's got the same clutch cancel button there that my old 4Runner did. Some had an electronic rear diff locker, and this would have been so cool if it had that. But that would be a real unicorn, to find a locking rear diff with a manual. but they're out there. So, oh yeah, let me get the key in here and I'll show you. This retains the power rear window from the original 4Runner, which is kind of cool. Some people might say that, you know, it's not totally necessary anymore because you can open that rear hatch without having to put the window down, but it's something that's kind of nice. Now, I have not started the car yet today. Sort of a cold start, but don't know if you can see it. We've got 207,855 on the clock. I bought it with 196,000 miles. I was able to buy it in confidence, again, sharing the same mechanic. I knew it had things like the timing belt and water pump done, and so again, we've got our power rear window right here, which has been kind of handy. This model was kind of perfect for me. It was pretty much a fully loaded model with the exception of the automatic and leather seats, which I'm pretty okay with. It even has a lovely sunroof, which works. So all in all, this thing's been a pretty solid truck. You know, I won't tell you guys how much I paid for it, but I paid like half of Blue Book value of what it was, only because I bought it with a misfire, which ended up being a failed rubber seal on one of the fuel injectors. So I got that sorted out, and unfortunately I think the previous owner drove it for a little bit longer than they should have with the miss. I ended up having to do an emissions overhaul, replacing both the O2 sensor, and this was a pretty funny way to find out that this thing is a California model and has 2 catalytic converters, but that's okay. So all in all, this thing's been extremely useful to me. I mean, you know, I use it primarily as a moped hauler, and we had a trailer hitch hooked up right there, and we took it up to Gettysburg last weekend with 6 mopeds and 5 people in it, so that worked out pretty well. It's also done really well with my single moped rear hitch rack, which I'll post a video review of sometime soon. Okay there, YouTube. Well, until next time.